Since we are talking about air, I have been lighting my sage, kind of just adding in that element um, of air into our space. So we're just going to take a moment. And if you haven't looked into breath work, I am not a breathwork facilitator, so I don't have all the knowledge about breath work, but I know it's powerful and it's so helpful. But if you think about that too, is if we're connecting back into the four elements, being connected to our body, air is our breath. And there are a lot of people who will experience a lot of healing, or you hear about people talking about partaking in plant medicine and how it's like they do a lot of healing outside of their body through partaking of like ayahuasca or, certain kinds of psilocybin or whatever that looks like. But we can also get to that area of healing and of understanding through breath work. And that's just taking, different patterns in breath. And if you really want to dive into that space, breath work can be such a great way of clearing out the blood, clearing out your veins, clearing out your heart center. But it also can help you leave your body and do a lot of interdimensional healing and traveling and exploring, all a part of our breath. And so I think it's so cool that that can be a natural stimulant to bring us into this space of deeper integration, of deeper soul healing, of understanding. I just think it's such a powerful tool that we've been given. And so, having that been said, today we're going to just start with taking a couple of deep breaths, placing your hand on your heart and maybe your solar plexus if you feel. This last breath, we're going to breathe in. You're going to take 5 short breaths out. 3 more times. Now, I want to take a moment to say a prayer of gratitude. Looking back on your day and showing all of the things that you were grateful for, even if they didn't work out how you planned every single time. Infusing your space with the power of gratitude, the power of love, the power of joy. Now we're going to do some breathing deep down into our center. We are going to breathe in through your mouth and breathe out through your mouth. Breathing that air all the way down to your belly button. Bringing yourself back to a stable breath. You can see how just in that moment of different forms of breathing, it can bring us right back here into the center space in the present moment, which just shows the power of our breath. Perfect. Okay, so go ahead and open your eyes. And today I feel like is going to be a little bit different because we also are very much so learning about air, which air is connected to the east. And this is also connected to our mind. So a lot of times, everything stems from our mind, whether it be good or bad or however we experience that. A lot does stem from the power of our mind. And we know that as we connect into our ancestors, we can have things that are passed down generationally. Um, and that can also be mindsets or limitations or limiting beliefs. And so, really, when we're going to be diving in and exploring about air and our ancestors. We're going to be diving deeper into understanding about the mental aspect, about our thoughts, about how we are experiencing things, and if something is brought down generationally, or if we're experiencing something in ourself that is holding us back. And so I also know that when we're diving into spirituality and spiritual gifts and delivering messages, we also have um, this aspect of bridging our physical and our spiritual self. And so a lot of people will use different kinds of divination, whether that be oracle cards, tarot, runes, people will read tea leaves. Or those who might not be into that area, scripture has been a really big external tool to help us access something internal. And so, if you look at all different kinds of religion, cultural beliefs, anything like that, a lot of people will lean upon specific kinds of tools to help guide them or to help access a space of delivering messages or of receiving messages. And so today, I actually don't do much with tarot. But today I felt like since we are really diving deep into the mind and we are helping bridge the physical, the mental mind, and our spiritual self, I really felt like it was appropriate to pull some tarot cards and to deliver some messages regarding the mind about that. And it's funny because there are three of you on right now, but I also pulled three different cards that I just felt like we really wanted to hone in on and to allow that to be the messages that come in today regarding our ancestors and regarding the power of our mind. And as I'm connecting into that space, our ancestors want to help empower us to have a positive perspective because we are only here for this short time. And yet we have fallen into the lineage and into the mindsets and into the understanding that has been passed down from generation to generation. And of course, we know that, but it's a good reminder. It's kind of like, once again, if we're going to use these glasses, right? My grandmother had these red glasses and she loved them, and her grandma and her mother gave her them when she was little. So then when she has my mom, she's going to give her red glasses because she loved her glasses so much. And then when I'm growing up, my mom's like, "Hey, it's time to get you red glasses because I loved mine, grandma loved hers, great grandma loved hers." And that's kind of how things are brought down in our mental mind as well. We may have limitations, we may have limiting beliefs that are showing up in our space that may be ours, but they also may be something that's passed down generationally, something that keeps holding us in this space. And so I really just feel like bridging the aspect of using something physical at times to break through our mental blocks or to break through that space. And I'm not saying you have to use tarot or anything like that. I'm just saying that some people do use those, whether it be any kind of divination. But in the tarot deck, the sword, the sword is a aspect of the mind. And so I just pulled three of the swords to really hone in and to think about these specific things and how this may show up for us, that are showing up in our ancestral lineage as well for those who are here. And it's quite interesting because I feel almost like I feel like these three cards are definitely specific messages for you guys. And I don't know, Jazz, if this makes sense with you in this area, but I'm just kind of like looking down and I feel like one, two, three for each of us here. But this is the first one that's coming in. And Jazz, you'll have to let me know if this resonates or makes sense with you. So this is called, let's see, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. So this is the Nine of Swords. And you can see there's the nine swords and then the person in the bed. And when I think about this, I feel as though, maybe in your aspect, and of course, this can be for everyone, but for some reason, Jazz, I'm like leaning into this space today. For you, is I feel as though it can be, there can be a lot of dreams, a lot of things that you want to come about. And this may also be that in your ancestral lineage, maybe on your dad's side, um, that there are a lot of people who are very open to dreams. They're very connected into seeing things or having dreams or having this sense of like imagination or having a deeper divine sense of a knowing. And in the past, that could have been someone who maybe was like a seer or a visionary, someone who was able to see things before they happened in that aspect. And it also feels like maybe there's this remembrance showing up inside of you. It's also like, oh, okay, I'm reminding myself that there's more than this, or maybe gifts are showing up for you, or maybe you're also having more dreams, or you're seeing things a lot more, or you're having more color show up in your space. But I also feel like there's such a beautiful gift because I feel like that does pass down the generations, but it can also be such a beautiful gift of trusting. However, the flip side of that is the space of being worried or scared or having this fear. And so when I see them up at night, it to me it feels like in those times where we could be relaxed, where we could be enjoying or like really like sliding or stepping into that, like when we go to bed, it almost feels like there could be this worry or extra doubt, extra fear coming in of like, oh, am I going to be safe? Or is this gift mine? Am I going crazy? Am I worrying too much? Like it just feels like where this is such a space of ease in the generations that's like bubbling up to the surface to be looked at. It also feels like there's this sense of worry like, am I bad? Am I wrong? Can I do this? Doing a lot of second guessing. And maybe that shows up having a hard time going to bed or being a hard time sleeping at night or waking up after having specific dreams or imaginations or different things coming in. But it just feels like when I'm connecting in, being aware that having the gift to see doesn't have to be a bad thing. And in fact, it can be such a beautiful aspect of reclaiming and reconnecting to your ancestral heritage is something that's so big. It's like so much bigger than what you can understand or so much bigger than what you can experience. And so I just really feel as though being aware of that sight to see, even though it might feel dark at times, or even though it might feel like, oh, I'm disconnected from my gifts, I'm disconnected from who I am, or why I'm here, or what the purpose is, or maybe you're navigating really great grief. It's just this constant reminder that the sight to see is so powerful and it's so there. It's just trusting. And when you can find that space to trust your own mind, and a lot of times we get this confused like, oh, am I seeing things? Is that really me or am I making it up? But when we can trust that those things that are showing up are for coming for a reason, it gives us a better space of understanding so that we can trust ourselves. And that's where the ease comes. That's where we can sleep better at night, where we don't have to be worried or our mind keeping us up or our fears keeping us up because we're surrendering into that space and knowing that you're always going to be comforted. You're always going to have that extra strength and that security to keep you warm, meaning you're not going to get lost in that space. It'll keep you warm, it'll keep you there. It's just the matter of surrendering and trusting into that space. And it's really very much so a sense of belief in your mind, belief in yourself. And so it'll be interesting to see if any of that, shows up for you later today in this call. But I just felt like, number one is definitely in the space of trusting and honoring and understanding. Um, and the next thing that's coming up is the next card that I really want to hit home on, all about the mind and the sword and understanding. Hello, Cynthia. Welcome, welcome. Is the power of trusting. And I'm being drawn into the space of butterflies, into the space of magic, is in our mindset and connecting to the air. At times, we can feel that we can be stuck in a box. And for whoever resonates with this number two, I want you to just sit with that and to think about that is it can be easy to almost be too cautious or too limiting on how things show up or how it has to be all of these specific ways or it has to show up in one way or another. It can pull away the magic of being able to co-create in your mind. And I feel as though connecting into the ancestors, connecting into the Queen of Swords is Cynthia, we're just kind of doing a little bit of a little channeling before. And in the past ones, I haven't really done channeling like this, but this time I'm using cards just because we are physical and mental. And so we're kind of bridging the gap between the physical and the mental as we dive into the air, which is our mind, which is the sword. And we can cut our thoughts can cut us really deep. It can be such a wounding space, but it can also be a space of great strength. And so, as I'm connecting into the Queen of Swords, it's just this reminder that our ancestors have to bring us that we need to check ourselves, check to see if we're actively inviting miracles in. But I also see her having a butterfly crown. And so remembering the space of honoring magic, of honoring the aspect that things can happen for good for a reason. And of course, we always know the butterfly. And this is funny that you hopped on, Cynthia, right when we're talking about the butterfly, because I know you have the butterfly in your thing a lot. But it just really is embracing that aspect that our mind is a constant space of growth, of change, of understanding. And it just feels as though the ancestral heritage that's connecting in here wants to help bring magic or bring this vitality and this velocity and this sparkle to the world, because it can be so easy to feel as though, oh, I got to go throughout another day. Here we go again. When in truth, this mindset that we have, our mind can be such a powerful gift, but it's a reminder to look for magic. And we're going to go on the journey, and we'll have you guys think of kind of a specific thing that you want to maybe see a higher perspective or see a bird's eye view of. But this is a space of reminding you that your mind and air has so much magic. And on top of that, a lot of times when we talk about our ancestors, we think about us having to do a lot of the healing and us having to move into the space of healing and honoring. And it can feel kind of heavy at times and overwhelming. But when we do give ourselves the space to connect to our ancestors, yes, we will be doing some healing. But healing also can be fun. It can be a space of enjoying those connections and knowing that we have gifts that are passed down generationally. We have spiritual gifts, we have viewpoints, we have different beliefs that can be passed down. And so I think this is just an invitation to really welcome in those magical gifts that can be passed down from generation to generation if we but look for them and if we but claim them ourselves. Is we have to do some of those reclaiming aspects to really allow that to be part of our journey and part of our space and our existence. And the last one that I wanted to hit on is the Seven of Swords. And he is holding five swords and he's leaving behind two. But it's almost like as he walks away, he's still focused on those back two. And I think this is the last message too that we really want to hit home on as far as connecting into our mind and air is we can have so many good things going on. We can have these five new things that we're experiencing, and we can still be stuck in the past or stuck in those things that maybe we were forced to let go or things that were taken from us that we just couldn't hold on to any longer. And it can be easy for us, instead of looking towards the future, honoring what we do have, we can be stuck in the past or stuck thinking about a past friendship or relationship or career or experience that is really holding us back. And I think it's so important that we remember that, yes, just as much as those swords might be there to hold us back, or it's part of our journey to honor that and to feel that and to look and see, why does that keep showing up for me? Because if we're having a hard time letting it go or letting a friendship go or a relationship or a career, whatever that may be, it's kind of like a sword on the side where it's like everywhere I go I still feel this. Well, maybe there's some kind of closure, or maybe there's some kind of soul lesson that still is working its way out. And so instead of pushing it back and being like, why do I keep feeling this? Or why does this keep showing up? This is an invitation to, when we go on a journey, maybe to have that as your experience and to fly the eagle's wings, to see a different perspective or to see why this certain circumstance keeps coming up, because there's a reason why, but it doesn't have to be a space of healing. It can just say, hey, this is a message or this is something to be aware of. And it doesn't have to be a scary or harsh thing, but really navigating and embracing the lessons that come with it. And that's part of our mental aspect as well, is there are soul contracts. And I don't know why this is coming back up in relationships, but there are soul contracts that we have with different people. And that doesn't mean that they're always going to be in our space. And there's going to always be cycles of soul contracts. And this is what the ancestors are really bringing into the space, is that we come here and we have this experience that we have to hold everything back. We have to hold it all here and we have to own it. We have to have everything in our physical possession. And that can also be with friendships or relationships. And even when someone's let go or even when someone's long gone, it can feel like we're still holding on. We're still like grasping onto that experience. And that may have been a past experience. If those who believe in past lives, it could be like a past life connection, or it could just be this sense of there are soul contracts and soul lessons to learn with this person. And so looking at that and not having that be a bad or a wrong or, man, how come I can't move forward? What's wrong with me? Is maybe there's a deeper lesson that still is calling you to look at it and to see, okay, what did I learn? What, how did that make me feel? And how can I move forward from there? And not how can I forget, but what can I learn from this experience? And how can I apply that into my life now? And so if you have a pen or a paper, this is a great time to, before we jump into our journey, to just sit with that, just to sit with the aspect of, I want you just to sit with this and think of a certain circumstance or a certain situation or a mindset that could be holding you back. And I want you to take some time to just think about this certain circumstance and then focusing on what you've made that mean or the limiting beliefs that come with it. So just take a moment once again to write down a certain situation and the thoughts that you have associated with that. Am I bad? Am I wrong? Can I not do this? Why can't I do this? Are there any limitations that are coming forward in your space? And just give yourself a space to sit with that and think about it. Or why do I keep going back to that relationship or that friendship? Or why am I so hung up on that? Just writing any thoughts that come to your mind. And then as you're looking at that, and we can dive in more after our journey if we feel like it, but what lessons, what are my soul what is my soul learning from this lesson? What is the soul lesson here? And from that perspective, how can I apply that to my life today? There is nothing bad or wrong about these thoughts. Our thoughts are so divinely guided. Our thoughts can give us a perspective to move forward. And if something isn't right or we came here to learn something that we're missing, our thoughts and our mind are going to be the first things to let us know. And I feel like I'm going to draw one more card as far as it goes with connecting into the mind. But before I do that, does anyone have any questions or thoughts or any of those cards that really stuck out to them? Hmm. Okay. The last one is 10 of Swords, and it was upside down. Which this one is him on the ground, and all of these swords are stuck in his back, impaling him or making that limiting for him to be able to move. And I think that with it being upside down, it's also the space of just reminding us that we may have certain things that we want to create, or things that if we were given 1 week to live or 1 year to live, what would we want our masterpiece to be? What would we want that thing that we left behind? What would that be? Would that be a story? Would that be just, you know, time spent with family? Would it be feeling more connected? If you think about that, if you had 1 year left to live, what would you put all of your time and energy into creating? Because we can have a lot of limiting thoughts, or we can keep ourselves busy, or we can have, well, what about this? Shoulda, woulda, coulda, all those things. And ultimately, a lot of ancestors and a lot of people who have passed are met with this experience of, did I create what I wanted? And regardless of if it's yes or if it's no or if it's halfway, there is still a space of growth on the other side, still lessons to be learned. But if we had 1 year left to live, what would we create? And from there, you may begin to think of all of these limiting beliefs or limiting thoughts, or your mind slowing down to say, oh, I have this and this and that and this that are holding us back. And this is what I'm excited for our journey to really dive into, is calling upon our ancestors. We're going to be riding the wings of a bird, and that bird will show up for you, whatever bird that it may be. And we can look into different meanings of the birds after. But I want you to just think about what it is that you want to create in life, or if you had 1 year left, what would that be? And maybe there's a limiting space or a certain circumstance that's hitting home or holding you back. Maybe that's what you want to focus on today as we journey. Regardless of what it is, our mind is so powerful, and our ancestors want to help us to relieve any of the burden that has been carried down from generation to generation. But we also remember that it's in a space that it can be fun, and healing can be exciting and light and playful, along with heavy, because there is duality, good and bad, happy, sad, all of those things. That's part of this human journey. But we always seem to get so stuck in the things that are passed on that are negative that we forget the positive things that also come from our ancestors. So I'm just kind of going to sit here and see if there's anything else. I almost just feel like this is a great time, an invitation before closing up the day, even just for each of us to put on a mute, like put on a song, even for the next 4 minutes, and to just write down what you experienced, the lessons you learned, the birds that came to you, and also just to maybe open up the space for automatic writing for the next step. Is as you both are moving forward in this area of embracing, even just having the right step and moving forward, the right next little tiny thing, or the mindset or some understanding. I just feel like this is a great time to just reflect and to just be with this energy, to be with that crown, that chakra that opened up. And when you feel like you want to bring an inspiration, to just imagine that crown being placed on your head and feeling the pulsing of that energy. And maybe if you're getting stuck, or if you feel like there's a lack of support, is jumping on that bird again and just flying with your ancestors to see a different perspective or another way of moving forward. Um, and I know it's different. Every element is different. How things show up is always different. So, yeah, before we close, is there any other thoughts or questions? You may not have anything, but I just wanted to check back in here. Well, thank you, ladies, so much for joining. I'm so grateful. And as I said, I'm still kind of in the space of wanting to dive deeper into doing more journeys with people and helping them step into their gifts. And so this is just a way that I am learning to do the same. So thank you for your grace and for just joining in this opportunity too. So I am so very grateful, and I hope that you all have an amazing evening.